Aegon's conquest of the Seven Kingdoms was a war on several simultaneous fronts, only possible with the power of the Targaryen dragons. However, the use of these powerful weapons often meant more conventional battles, and the heroics of those who fought them are very much in the shadows of history. After a few small initial skirmishes in the Crown Lands, ended quickly by Visenya and her dragon Vhagar, Aegon turned to deal with Harren the Black, held up in his newly built great fortress of Harrenhal, while Visenya sought to pacify the Vale of Arryn. This left his youngest sister and wife, Rhaenys, along with her bastard half-brother Orys Baratheon, to deal with the troublesome Storm King Argilac Durrandon, who had called his banners and amassed his men at Storm's End the moment Aegon was sighted on the shores of Westeros. During their march south, Rhaenys spent most of her time riding her Dragon Meraxes, acting as a scout for the small Targaryen ground force led by Orys. During the march south, word of the burning of Harrenhal reached the Storm King, along with the fiery fate of the powerful Harren the Black. Not wishing to sit inside his castle and burn to death, Argilac rallied his men and ordered them north to meet the Targaryen host in open battle, a bold move, and one Orys and Rhaenys had not expected. Rhaenys assessed the size of the force the Stormlanders had amassed, already knowing that it was much likely larger than the Targaryen host. Her estimates suggest that the Stormlanders would have outnumbered the invaders 2-1, giving them a more than healthy advantage, especially if they were to take a defensive position. Using the information his half-sister had gathered, and knowing he was outnumbered, that even with a dragon he would take heavy losses, Orys took the initiative and took up the defensive position first, atop the hills of Bronzegate, before the Stormlanders could take the key vantage point for themselves, somewhat reducing the impact of the numbers. As Argilac's forces closed in around the Targaryens, a massive storm broke out that would give the name to the coming battle. Even more bizarre is just moments before, the weather was calm and clear. The battle would be given the name The Last Storm. Some would even take this storm as an omen for a Durrandon victory. The Storm King was confident. He had twice the men, 4 times as many mounted knights and heavy horses. If he could press the attack fast enough before the Targaryen host was ready, he could maybe mitigate the power and danger of Meraxes' presence. It would be fair to note that despite the tales of Harren reaching Argilac, he did not truly understand the power of a dragon, perhaps thinking the tale might have been exaggerated. Dragon or no, he decided to press his attack. Argilac made 3 charges with his horsemen up the steep hills of Bronzegate, with no sign of Rhaenys and her dragon. But the very storm that was seen as such a good omen caused more difficulties than positives. The horsemen were slowed drastically by the thick mud created by the heavy downpour from the raging storm, limiting their impact and charging ability. But his spearmen on foot did have a better time of it, and succeeded in taking 2 of the 3 hills. On the 3rd charge, Argilac broke through the Targaryen line, and his knights charged in the breach, only to be faced by Rhaenys and her dragon Meraxes, who slew most of Argilac's guard in one hot, fiery breath. In the panic and confusion that followed, the Storm King was thrown from his horse into the thick mud below. As he rose, he came face to face with Orys Baratheon. Orys offered the old man a chance to yield. Instead, Argilac drew his sword. The Storm King wished to die fighting. He faced Orys Baratheon in single combat. Both men skilled warriors. Both men took wounds, but it was Orys who would win the day, slaying the last Storm King with relative ease in the end. With him, the House Durrandon, save for Argilac's only daughter, was extinct, and at his death, the battle came to an end. After her father's death, Princess Argella Durrandon barred the gates of Storm's End and declared herself Storm Queen. However, the small garrison left behind at Storm's End to protect the princess saw sense and feared that Rhaenys and Meraxes would just simply burn them alive in the castle, just as Aegon had done at Harrenhal. They revolted against her, and after a few days they delivered her to Orys Baratheon's camp, chained and naked. However, she did not share the fate of her father. House Durrandon had come to an end, but that did not mean their blood or that of the Storm King would. Orys Baratheon treated the young woman kindly, removing her chains and giving her food and wine. He would marry Argella, and was made Lord Paramount of the Stormlands by Aegon. He took the stag sigil and words of House Durrandon as his own, forming the new House Baratheon in its place. What I find interesting about The Last Storm is it is really the first time we truly get to see a dragon used in open combat. Yes, there have been some small battles during the initial landing of Aegon, but not on this scale. It really shows the power a dragon has to turn the tide, more so when you consider that Rhaenys and Meraxes did very little actual fighting. We also get to see the founding of House Baratheon, who would obviously play a big role in the history of Westeros, for good or ill. Most of all, I think the use of a single dragon, and that in combination with Harrenhal, makes a great prelude for what was about to happen. Maybe the most famous battle in Aegon's Conquest, the Field of Fire.